Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Women's Advanced Bible Study Night, the 4th of January, 2024. Okay, we'll be dealing with the book of Esther. We'll read out of that and break it down, go back over it. Okay, go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 700 videos that you can feed off of and check them out and get the truth that what's really going on with the scriptures. Okay, we have I'm trying to be consistent with our hours of operation. On Tuesday nights, we have advanced Bible study for males and females for everybody, and it's from 8 to 10 Central Time. And then Wednesday nights we do a lot of reading through Tanakh, which is the Old Testament. That's from 8 to 10 Central Time. Then we come back on Thursday nights for our women's advanced Bible study, and that's from 8 to 10 Central Time. And we have our men's advanced Bible study on Friday nights, but it's on Clubhouse. And the name of the room is Non-Messianic Conversations. That's from 8 to 10 Central Time. And we come back on the Shabbat with two classes. We have a morning Shabbat class from 10 to 12 a.m. Then we have an evening Shabbat class to close out the Shabbat, 6 to 7, about an hour. Okay. So with that being said, this is a non-Messianic channel, and by that I mean when we deal with the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah, which is the first 5 books, which consists of Israel's laws, statutes, and judgments, and our culture. We don't subscribe to the New Testament or to the God that's in the New Testament. Okay. Shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study. We're going to do our moment of silence. We'll do a prayer, Psalms, so women's health. We have some current events, and then we'll go to some need to know information, and then we'll deal with our topic, which is we'll be going back over, revisiting the book of Esther and doing some reading. Okay. Oh Lord, we come this day, bow down, honoring you, praising you, and believing in you. And we thank you for your wisdom and the knowledge that you have poured out upon us. And through your prophets, you reveal the times that we as Jacob's children would endure our tribulation. Keep us, O Lord, and guide us and deliver us. And we see you now in the Holy Scriptures, O Lord, and we trust you with all our heart and soul. Keep not thy silence, but shine forth on our enemies with thy great power and thy great glory. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, somebody gonna read the Psalms?
Yeah, shalom, everyone. I'll be reading Psalms 33.
Okay.
Rejoice in the Lord, O ye righteous, for praise is comely for the upright. Praise the Lord with harp, sing unto him with the psaltery and an instrument of 10 strings. Sing unto him a new song, play skillfully with the loud noise. For the word of the Lord is right, and all his works are done in truth. He loveth righteousness and judgment. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them, by the breath of his mouth. He gathereth the waters of the sea together as a heap. He layeth up the depth in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. The Lord bringeth the counsel of the heathen to naught. He maketh the devices of the people of none effect. The counsel of the Lord standeth forever, the thoughts of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. The Lord looketh from heaven, he beholdeth all the sons of men. From the place of his habitation he looketh upon all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashioneth their hearts alike, he considereth all their works. There is no king saved by the multitude of a host. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength. A horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy, to deliver their soul from death, and to keep them alive in famine. Our soul waiteth for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. For our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Let thy mercy, O Lord, be upon us, according as we hope in thee. That was Psalms 33.
Okay. You got any comments on that? Or good?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so, okay. So, it says, I wanted to shine the light on this. The first couple of verses says, "Rejoice in the Lord, O you righteous, for praise is comely for the upright." It said, "Praise the Lord with the harp, sing unto him with the pastry and instruments of 10 strings, sing unto him a new song, play skillfully with a loud voice." Right. So when you see that right there, a lot of people, it don't really register, but these angels, they even created, they vibrational beings. They deal with vibrations. So when you sing, you want to get their attention. You sing or praise. That's why he says, shout aloud. Not go in the closet and then do some kind of mind trick where you're not talking. You're just doing telepathy. No, he says, shout aloud, cry out loud, sing aloud when you do that. So the example of that is in Daniel, right? It says, chapter 9, I think it is. He says, uh, Daniel was looking at the prophecies in Jeremiah that they were going to be in Babylon for 70 years. So they got close to that time. Daniel's to 70 years. Daniel, he don't know, right or around that time. So it says, in the first year, Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. In the first year, Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes and Persians, seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of years, wherefore the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. So they're going to be in Babylon for 70 years. Then it says, and I set my face unto the Lord God. We want to get his attention, to seek thy by prayer and by supplication with fasting, uh, sackcloth and ashes. And I prayed unto the Lord my God and made my confessions and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keep the covenant and mercy to them that love him and to them that keep his commandment. So what happened is they understood this. So he wasn't quite sure of the time frame where they was at for the 7 years. He was close. So he said his face to the Lord with prayer and supplication. So this is what I want to read. It says, let me get it. It says then 21. After he started doing this, verse 20 says, and while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people, Israel, and praying my supplications before the Lord my God, for the holy mountain of my God, yet while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in a vision at the beginning, began to cause to fly, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. So he heard it, and he said, he informed me and talked with me, and he said, "O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding." Now here you go, 23. At the beginning of thy supplication, when he started praising and worship, right? The commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly, greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. So he said, as soon as you started uh, fasting, which is afflicting your soul, and praising and worshiping, I heard it. And now I'm here to deal with it. Okay. Any comments on that? Okay, we're gonna go into our women's health.
Yes, shalom, everyone. Please know that the information that is shared is intended for general, informational, and educational purposes only and is not medical advice or recommended treatment. Tonight's discussion is on fatigue. Fatigue is a term used to describe an overall feeling of tiredness or lack of energy. It isn't the same as simply feeling drowsy or sleepy. When you're fatigued, you have no motivation and no energy. So, what causes fatigue? There are many potential causes of fatigue, but tonight we will be discussing three general reasons. The first one will be lifestyle factors, such as lack of physical activity, lack of sleep, being overweight or obese, periods of emotional stress, boredom, grief, and taking certain medications such as antidepressants or sedatives. Second will be physical health conditions such as anemia, arthritis, infections such as colds and flu, sleep disorders, eating disorders such as anorexia, autoimmune disorders, and congestive heart failure. Last but not least will be mental health issues. Mental health conditions can also lead to fatigue. For example, fatigue is a common symptom of anxiety, depression, and seasonal affective disorder. Fatigue is a common symptom of many medical conditions that range in severity from mild to serious. It is also natural result of some lifestyle choices, such as lack of exercise or poor diet. So, what are some lifestyle changes that can help reduce fatigue? Drink enough fluids, stay hydrated, practice healthy eating habits, exercise on a regular basis, get enough sleep, avoid known stressors, avoid a work or social schedule that's overly demanding, take part in relaxing activities. These lifestyle changes may help ease your fatigue, but if left untreated, fatigue can take a toll on your physical and emotional well being. I will be reading from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 29 through 31. God will hear if Israel repents. Verse 29. But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him. If thou seek him with all thine heart and with all thy soul. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days, if thou turn to the Lord thy God, and shall be obedient unto his voice. Verse 31. For the Lord thy God is a merciful God. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers which he sware unto them. Tonight's discussion was on fatigue, and I read the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 29 through 31. God will hear if Israel repents. Shalom.
Okay, so appreciate that information. Okay, go to our current events.
So exactly what world leaders were worried about a couple of years ago is what they are now worried about today. It is all starting now. And some are saying that we are going to see revenge on the United States very soon. But the worry is that it's going to be because of a miscalculation, a misunderstanding, or a misrepresentation. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Because now the United States is being blamed for something that the U.S. says they did not do. So I will address that in just a moment. All I ask is one thing. It's 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. Now, let's begin. So one of the things that many world leaders are concerned over is something that they say is misrepresentation. This means that instead of them doing something to another country, it's being misrepresented and another country pulled off an attack. For instance, let's talk about what happened just the other day. Because Iran vows revenge after the biggest attack since 1979 revolution. Iran is one of those countries that the United States has had conflicts with over the past 3 months. And it's because of Israel is attacking Hamas in Gaza. Hamas is an Iranian-backed militia. Now, we are also seeing an increased tension between Iran and the United States because the United States put together a force to go through the Red Sea. They call it Operation Prosperity Guardian. In that, the Red Sea force, this is 19 countries that are going up and down the Red Sea protecting shipping vessels. Well, Iran also sent an Iranian warship into the Red Sea just this week because they want to ensure that the Houthis are not being targeted either. Again, the Houthis are an Iranian-backed militia. So, here's what one White House official is saying. They say that the blast appeared to represent a terrorist attack of the type carried out in the past by Islamic State militants. Now, in a statement on Wednesday, Iran, they said that this attack was aimed at creating insecurity and seeking revenge against the nation's deep love and devotion to the Islamic Republic. And they also went on to add that the attack strengthens the resolve and decisively and justly punish the perpetrators. Now, the problem is that multiple countries, including the United States, are facing this right now, is that Iran is blaming us, as they are not sure exactly who orchestrated these attacks, right? Currently, Iran is blaming Israel and the United States because right now we blame Iran for backing Hamas and the Houthis. So that's part of the issue. But the concern is the Iranian leader vows harsh response to the deadly bombings that took the lives of 84 people. Okay? That is concerning. That they are saying it will be a harsh response, a response like what they saw, which was a bombing in Iran. Now, we've seen tensions high like this before. Okay, this is nothing new, but according to experts, they are saying these tensions that we are now facing are higher than what we faced in the past. Because back in 2020, there was a drone strike that took the life of the then top commander, Qasem Soleimani. This happened on January 3rd, 2020. Well, Iran retaliated by attacking 2 Iraqi military bases that house U.S. troops. And this brought the U.S. and Iran very close to a full-blown conflict. Right? Very close. Well, Iran has never gotten over that. And that is part of the problem. But Iran continues to blast the United States. And they continue to blast, because this blast, in Iran, they are on the United States about it. They're also pushing the United States over this warning of the Red Sea.
Can you make money by mailing people?
Into a bigger crisis than what we were originally expecting, and this is what world leaders were concerned with, is that we were going to face a wider conflict in the Middle East. Well, things like this are going to cause that, because now world leaders say that they are highly concerned of misrepresentation. That just because one country gets attacked does not mean it's the country that was their most threatening country that attacked them. Just because the United States feels that Iran is attacking us doesn't mean we went on and we conducted this attack, right? And that's the concern. According to the United States, they say ISIS could have carried out this Iran bombing. Doesn't mean it's the United States, okay? Now, here's the problem. This is just starting. This is just starting right now, because something else happened just this morning, today on January 4th. Look at this. It says U.S. strike targets pro-Iran militia commander at his headquarters in Baghdad. Now, Iraq blames the United States-led coalition for a deadly drone strike in Baghdad. This is something completely different. This is the concern that right now, because there's so many eyes on the United States, so many eyes on Israel, it makes it easy for somebody to come out, put on a demonstration, whatever, do a strike, do a drone strike, do a deadly bombing. Guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame the ones that are seeing the most eyeballs. Israel, the United States. That's probably what's going to happen. Well,
okay. Any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that? Okay, no comment. Okay.
Ms. Vicki Dillon for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up, thumbs up. That way other people will know that we're here. And it helps us to overcome some of the limitations of some of the algorithms. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing the video. Also, family, did you know that we have our own app? Isn't that exciting? You heard that right? Beloved, the information should be below on how you can connect with us. Tell everybody about it. This helps to expand our voice. And how many of you all know that so many times, sometimes we can run into certain types of limitation and different forms of censorships on different platforms. And so that helps us to avoid that when you so very much. I think you're going to love it. Listen, family, how many of you all are familiar with this one, Jane Elliott? She is known as a teacher. She has made the rounds for decades. This white lady, Jane Elliott, she has been her dealing with her racial theory and project that she does, calling out racism amongst white people, even though she's white. She's been on late night talk shows. I mean, she has been in attendance to HBCUs. Yes, our own people have invited her to their colleges and universities and sororities and fraternities and places of worship, and help to pay this lady's bills and stuff. And I'm gonna tell you why I am just on one today. I want you to watch this clip of this so-called anti-racist activist, Jane Elliott. I want you to watch this first clip.
To do it that way, then first you have to pay off the Native Americans, whose land we took and whose homes we took and whose people we killed in the millions.
No, they got paid. They got paid.
We'll have to,
they have land.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
They have land. They have reservations, and they also have economic.
Oh, yeah. And would you like to talk to me about reservations and what a wonderful payment that is? Would you like to be on a reservation? Would you be willing, and would all the black people in this country be willing to take a reservation? That's what the Nation of Islam was asking for. Well, was that a smart thing to do? I don't think it was. Do you think it was a really comfortable place to be? The way that they were living, no, I wouldn't live like that. Oh, well, okay, but the whole planet is a prison for black people. So like it can't get any worse for black people. So you can't. I'm not gonna look at somebody else and say, oh shoot, like I don't want my own land. I don't want a shot at that. I would never say that. A black person is not gonna say, I don't want to have a chance to create my own civilization and my own society. Everybody wants that chance, and everybody deserves that chance. And black people deserve reparations in the form of land, in the form of cash payments, and in the form of some type of tax consideration. So
now, shout out to these brothers that had her on the podcast. This was about 3 years ago. And if you follow my work and you've seen me on multiple platforms, you know I discussed this years ago. And I've discussed this even recently because I think it's worth discussing. I was scrolling through one of the social media platforms, and I believe it was a HBCU related or affiliated platform, thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers, so many views, where they were singing the praises of Jane Elliott as if she was, you know, Mary Magdalene of something, Mary and stuff. And they were just going on and on and on about this Jane Elliott. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world is really going on? Do you all understand that this woman is a fake? She is a fraud. Why am I saying that? She just told you why she is not an anti-racist teacher or activist, an expert and a skilled person, that black universities and black religious institutions and black social groups pay honorariums and fly in to talk. This is the trick bag black family that we have to get out of. What is that? Just because a member of the oppressive class is willing to talk about racism doesn't mean that they're actually an ally. The test is always, what do you do to hold your people accountable? And the moment you bring up reparations and they say no, you know they're a fraud. Hello, Bernie Sanders. How many of you all were singing the praises of Bernie Sanders? Even Sean King one time called him the Messiah. Literally called him the Messiah. When Bernie Sanders was on The View, and Sonny Hostin asked him about cash reparations, Bernie Sanders, who believes in spending, no exaggeration, trillions, that's with the T, of dollars, to make sure that all Americans can get free health care, free college, and all of that. He believes in giving absolute freebies to everybody, and that's cool. But when you say, what about the people that shed blood? What about the people that were stolen, whose land was stolen, whose bodies were stolen? Those that built America, what about giving them reparations? He says emphatically, unequivocally, no. When you look at folks like Tim Wise, they claim that Tim Wise is such this pro white man who's an anti-racist activist. When you talk to him about what should be done about it and reparations, he's against it. Do you see how she acted? Well, let me school the so-called school teacher. Now, class in session, Professor Vicki Dillard is an instructor. Miss Jane Elliott, did you know that there were certain so-called Indian tribes? By the way, the original natives were black-skinned natives. Y'all do understand that. You do understand that some of our people were actually already owners in here in what you call the United States of America, and some of our people were snatched and enslaved from the continent of Africa. You do know that, right? Just want to clear that up. But in addition to all of that, Miss Jane Elliott, does she not know and understand that some of the natives were actually slave holders? Miss Jane Elliott, did you know that the U.S. government years ago entered into certain contracts with several of the tribes, paid them money to release some of their slaves and to pay some of the slaves? And some of the Indian tribes, not only did they not release the slaves in the time that they promised the government that they would, but they kept the money that they were supposed to pay. Did you know that some of the Indians are the ones that helped to chase runaway slaves and drag them back to the plantation? Did you know in recent history that some of the Indian tribes objected to black folks receiving some of the payouts, where there was a provision in some of the treaties where black folks that look like me are supposed to be entitled to some of the tangible benefits that's in some of those treaties? This is the reason why the great Dr. Claude Anderson literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own very black dollars in court to fight for some of those legal treaty tangible benefits. Did you all know that? And the nerve to say that we don't get it unless they get it first. So not only were we some of the originals, but not only as the melanin lightened up over time, there was some of the ones that you recognize as Indians are the ones that enslaved us, kept us enslaved, entered into different contracts, but the government refused to release us on time in terms of out of slavery and didn't pay us some of the monies and funds that they received. And modern history, some of the tribes reject Black folks receiving some of the tangible benefits where there's provisions in some of those treaties that means that belong to us.
Okay, any comments on that?
Shalom.
Shalom.
Oh, go ahead, sister.
No, you may go ahead.
I was just gonna say she is, speaking the truth. You got to look at it. If we do a little bit of research on that, the Indians, they bought and sold Africans too now as slaves, and they fought in the Confederacy War. So, I mean, the sister is telling the truth on that. But you got to look at this lady. I mean, just because she's speaking one thing does not always mean that she's standing with us.
Right. Yeah, that's how we ended up over here.
Yes.
Being nice, taking folks for granted. Next thing you know, we was on the bottom of the slave ship heading this way.
Right. In the last video that the lady was in, they was hyping her all up. You know what I'm saying? Thinking
Right.
she's, standing up for us, and she's not. I mean, even I think Vicky Diller, played her when she was saying, about the reparations and all of that, but she's not with us at all.
Right. Exactly.
Shalom.
Okay.
Yes, it's been known that the Indians did not want to mix with the Black people, and being that so many Blacks says I have Indian in me. We're from, I'm part of the Indian tribe, and they wouldn't not dare mix their blood with those with the Blacks, Africans, because they despised them. They didn't like them. And with that lady, she says, she gets in there and starts talking, and then she even talks against her own people to gain favor from the Blacks when she started out, saying about the little children, and then started talking about her own folks by saying, okay, all the ones with blue eyes and blonde hair stand over here, we don't like you. And she was doing those kind of analogies to those kids to try to gain favor in the Black community. And I think she's gone now. I don't know if she's still alive.
Yeah, she's still alive. Anybody else? Okay.
Shalom, Brother Leonard. I want to say one more thing. On YouTube, there's this great video. I can send it out to everybody. I have it saved. It's called Native American Slave Owners Forgotten History. That's a good video to watch.
Okay. Okay, we got some need to know information right here. I thought it was kind of informative.
This is Finance Daily, and we need to have a serious talk about the impending economic crisis that's knocking at our door. You've probably been hearing a lot about the economy bouncing back, right? But let me tell you, the reality is far more concerning. Let's dive into what's really happening. Have you noticed how car sales are slowing down? It's not just about sticker shock, it's a sign of deeper issues. We're seeing a significant reduction in car purchases among medium and lower income households. Now, why is that important? It's a clear indicator that these households are feeling the pinch. They're running out of financial steam. And guess what? This trend is creeping into the middle class too. It's like a domino effect, and it's only a matter of time before it hits the broader economy. But that's not all. The housing market is also showing worrying signs. Mortgage applications are down 10.7%, the most significant drop since February. And this is happening despite interest rates falling from their peak in October. What does this tell us? It's a red flag that even lower borrowing costs aren't enough to boost the housing market. Now let's talk about manufacturing, the backbone of the American economy. The manufacturing PMI is at 47.4, indicating contraction. What does this mean for the American worker? It's simple. When orders decrease, production slows down, and eventually jobs are on the line. We're already seeing layoffs in this sector, and if this trend continues, it could spell disaster for countless families. And here's something that might surprise you. Did you know that the Federal Reserve's actions are not always in sync with what's happening in the real economy? For instance, they're talking about a soft landing, but the data tells a different story. Job openings are decreasing, and layoffs, although not widespread yet, are starting to creep in. This disconnect is alarming because it shows that the people making decisions about our economy might not have a full grasp of the ground.
Did you know that you can invest your money into
Ground reality? But why should you care about all this? Because it affects you directly. Think about it. If the job market weakens, what does that mean for your job security? If the stock market takes a hit, what happens to your investments and retirement savings? And if consumer spending continues to decline, what does that mean for the businesses you love and the overall health of our economy? Now let's get straight to the point and tackle some hard-hitting realities that are affecting us all. We're going to look closely at issues like food insecurity, the surprising growth of certain fast food chains, and the mounting credit card debt crisis. These aren't just abstract economic concepts, they're real problems hitting Americans hard every day. Let's dive into these critical issues and see how they're changing our lives. 1. Food insecurity and economic disparities. U.S. viewers, we need to talk about a critical issue that's hitting close to home for many of us. Food insecurity. Right now in our country, 17 million households are struggling without enough food. That's the highest number we've seen in 11 years. Think about that for a moment. In a nation known for its wealth and resources, why are so many families facing hunger? But here's where it gets even more concerning. Despite what we're hearing about job growth and a recovering economy, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Many Americans are working multiple jobs, not out of ambition, but out of necessity. They're trying to stitch together enough income to cover the basics. Why is it that in one of the richest countries in the world, working hard doesn't always equate to making ends meet? Let's delve deeper into this. Our government officials are presenting a rosy picture of the economy. We hear about job numbers going up, but what kind of jobs are we talking about? Are these positions that pay a living wage? Or are people scraping by on minimum wage, juggling 2 or 3 jobs just to pay for rent and groceries? Consider this. The official narrative is that everything's great. The economy is booming. But if that's the case, why are so many struggling to put food on the table? Why are we seeing such a stark contrast between the official reports and the lived experiences of millions of Americans? And then there's the issue of our leaders' priorities. We've seen instances where our top officials seem more focused on leisure than addressing these pressing issues. There are days filled with beach visits and casual speeches, while many Americans are wondering where their next meal will come from. How does this disconnect happen? How can our leaders be so out of touch with the realities facing everyday people? This situation raises a lot of questions about the direction our country is heading. It's not just about economic policies, it's about the values that drive these policies. Are we as a nation prioritizing the well-being of all our citizens, or are we caught up in statistics that mask the underlying struggles? We need to have a serious conversation about this. It's not just about numbers and statistics, it's about real people, real families facing real challenges every day. What are your thoughts on this? How do you see these issues affecting your community, and what do you think needs to be done? Most of their income into paying off debts. How much is left for them to contribute to economic growth through spending? And let's think about the ripple effects. If a sudden financial emergency occurs, how many people would be pushed over the edge? We're not just talking about a few individuals here. We're talking about a significant portion of our population. This isn't a scenario we can afford to ignore. 4. Unprecedented stock sales by top bankers. Have you heard about Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase? He's just sold 1 million shares of his stock. This isn't just a routine transaction, it's the first time he's ever done this. And it's not just him. Warren Buffett, one of the most renowned investors, has also offloaded a substantial amount of stock. Now, why would these financial giants be selling off their shares like this? It's a move that should make us all sit up and pay attention. When the big players in the financial world start making moves like this, it's often a sign of something significant brewing beneath the surface of the economy. But it's not just about these individual actions. There's a broader trend here that's equally concerning. A whole list of CEOs and top executives are selling off millions in stock. We're talking about the Waltons, the family behind Walmart, and many others. This massive sell-off by top financial leaders is a huge red flag. What does this mean for the rest of us? Are these top bankers and business leaders seeing something we're not? Is this an indication of an impending economic downturn? Or are they just cashing in at a market peak? And then there's the issue of bank deposit outflows. The Federal Reserve has admitted that banks suffered massive deposit outflows last week. This is huge. People are pulling their money out of banks at an alarming rate. What's driving this lack of confidence in our banking institutions? Let's not forget the record $130 billion Americans paid last year in credit card interest and fees. And this year, it could be even higher. This is a clear sign of the financial strain many are under. So what's really going on here? Why are these financial moguls offloading their stocks? Why are people losing faith in banks? And why are we, the average Americans, getting squeezed by credit card interest and fees? 5, job market contraction and the rise of automation. Folks, have you noticed the shrinking number of job openings lately? It's the...
How much money have you made investing in artificial intelligence?
we need to understand. Why is the Federal Reserve seemingly encouraging this trend? What's really going on here? It's not just about the economy trying to correct itself. There's a more significant shift happening, one that could change the way we work forever. Automation is on the rise. Have you seen how many industries are starting to rely more on robots and AI? It's not just manufacturing anymore. We're talking about retail, services, even healthcare and education. Robots don't complain, they don't ask for raises, and they don't need breaks. From a business perspective, it makes sense, but where does that leave the average worker? Now think about the implications of this. If jobs are disappearing because of automation, what happens to the workforce? What happens to people who have spent years, even decades in their field, only to find out their job can be done by a machine? It's a scary thought, and it's not something in the distant future. It's happening right now. But here's another angle we need to consider. With fewer jobs available and more people out of work, what does this mean for our economy? Consumer spending drives a huge part of our economic growth. If people don't have jobs, they don't have money to spend. It's a cycle that could lead to even more economic challenges. And let's not forget the human element in all of this. What does it mean for us as a society if a significant portion of our population can't find work? What does it mean for our sense of purpose, our mental health, and our community connections? These are questions we can't afford to ignore. So what's the solution? It's not an easy question to answer. We can't stop the march of technology, but we also can't leave millions of people behind. This is a conversation we need to have, not just among economists and policymakers, but as a community. We need to start thinking about how we're going to navigate this new landscape. How do we ensure that people have meaningful work? And how do we prepare for a future that looks very different from our past?
Okay, any comments on that? Anybody noticing that?
Well, Shalom, this is Tasha. So first, he kind of lost me when he said early in the video that America manufacturing is the backbone of American industry. That's not true.
Okay.
Manufacturing has not been the backbone of America for over 30, 40 years, and it's been intentional that they have been undermining the middle class for years for a lot of different reasons. Even though he, to me, brought up some valid points, I think they're kind of more for shock value, because the people that are driving the economy the way that it is, it's being done intentionally. And it's not really, to me, anything the middleman can do, because it's done at a level that we don't have any influence. We don't control our politicians. They don't listen to us. They're not regulating. They're not monitoring the things that are being done at the level where it used to kind of make a difference. It doesn't make a difference anymore. This is the first time in our history we've seen a number of billionaires that we see now in our country and in the world. This is the first time we've ever seen that, because America has been turned into a service, not an industry where they're producing goods. We're becoming consumers. And I think to some degree, this is a natural progression of the way technology, like he talked about, is being, introduced into our system. So the country and the industries and stuff, they have to adjust. So that's natural. But then there's also intentional by the way that things are regulated, the way that people are allowed to do things with in terms of the way in which products are being produced, or just the fact that uh, the elimination of certain regulations that allow people to be able to create monopolies where they didn't used to be able to do that before. Look at Amazon. It's a giant. I remember Amazon used to be a bookstore. And
Right.
in under 20 years, look what it is now. It didn't get like that because the guy was so smart and he was able to, corner the market. He greased a lot of hands. A lot of things are done illegally, and maybe even some done legally, even though unfairly, in order to create the type of industries for a certain group of people that the way that they are doing now. And I think he's lying about the fact that jobs and stuff are going away. There's still a lot of jobs. They may not be jobs people want to do, but there's jobs in the customer service and the farming industry and stuff like that. People, they can't get nobody to do. And so this whole thing, this facade and distraction about the border and all of that, they need those people to come over here.
Exactly.
But they don't want to admit that. They want them to be the boogeyman, but they need those people here. So that's my comment.
Right. Biden understand that, but the Republicans, because of their racism, don't want it to happen. But the Democrats, they see that. They need those people because Americans they got beside themselves. They don't think they need to work for those type of jobs.
Right.
Right.
So we'll just see how things develop. I mean, it's just interesting to watch how all of the politics, we're down here fighting at the bottom and the people at top, they looking down at us laughing like they've always done. It's just been different. It's always just been a handful of people that really have the power and the wealth and the ability to change things. And they create these false divisions in order to keep us distracted from paying attention to what they're actually doing.
Exactly. Right. Anybody else? Everybody good on that? Yeah, it's like you were saying, when you go from a biblical perspective, we know that it's Esau, the Rothschilds, and all them. They come in and get a company like you were saying, Google or Amazon. They come in and back it, and that's how it skyrocketed. So they actually reaping all the benefits of it, but they got another face on it. Then they got somebody else with a face on it to distract the people from looking as if they own everything. They don't want everybody to see them as if they own everything. They want to put different faces on it. It's like a prime example is what that is, KFC and Wendy's, same owner. Yeah. Okay.
And remember when, there was no such thing as monopolies. I remember,
Right.
I mean, I'm old enough or young enough to remember when it was a big deal when Bell South and AT&T, they forced them to split the Bell South company. Anybody remember that telephone company?
Yeah, I
Now
remember
you
that. I
have,
Yes,
remember that.
yes.
yeah. So how is it that we're supposed to be this big antitrust and free competition and let the market, drive the costs and stuff like that, 30, 40 years ago? Then all of a sudden now you have giants like a Amazon, like a Walmart that's swallowing up the competition with no sort of checks or balances for that.
Exactly.
So
Right. Yeah. Is that something?
Yes, it is. And they're going to
So,
continue to manipulate you know, be the head. And as we try to say we're going to vote for the next Democrat president, they already have that stuff in play. They all eating together, doing whatever together, but they already have that in play. That it will be a Republican this coming election, and we can fight and scream and yell all we want, but they already set these things in play. That,
I
hands
think
up
they're
into what's going on.
I think they're fighting themselves. It's not. It's not. This battle isn't for us, but the battle is between them. They're trying to fight for whatever power they can among themselves. If you really see, they're going after each other.
Right.
And trying to get us caught up in what's going on, because there are some that's leading them astray, far as the churches, and leading them astray to get them caught up with what's going on in their battles. As long as they can get someone to, pull the plow, I should say, they're going to do it.
Okay.
I say they rats on a ship.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we open it up for some Q&A, questions or comments. Anybody got any questions, comments from their studying or something they came across, video or something they watched? You want to talk about it? Okay, we'll play this right here. I thought this is interesting. Then we're going to reading out the book of Esther.
We have a Ghanaian sister who posted on her TikTok that colorism exists in Ghana and sharing her story of what she went through as a child. She was then dragged and got a lot of backlash from fellow Africans, including Ghanaians, accusing her of lying and saying she never set foot in Ghana. So here's her response to that. Take a look. Africans, we need to stop lying to ourselves. Colorism is real. Colorism exists in Africa. Why do you think that 40% of African women bleach their skin, according to the World Health Organization? Because society tells them, their African society tells them that their dark skin is inferior. As a child, I hated myself, became suicidal, and had childhood trauma because fellow Ghanaians told me on a regular basis how ugly I was and how undesirable my dark skin was. And then you went ahead to say I've never stepped foot in Ghana. Do you know me? Wouldn't me what much I sound question. The Bible trying to tap it up in question was our way. So Bibi and when you should not be able to know cancer. So this is her truth. And as you heard, she said that she was suicidal because she was called ugly by fellow Ghanaians because of the color of her skin, being a darker complexion. And she's basically saying, you people don't know me. So I'm going to translate the last part of her commentary, which was in Twi. And she was basically saying, you don't know me, stop the stupidity. You're going online talking about things you don't know anything about. And she went on to say that perhaps you've not experienced being called a racial slur, and maybe if you did, you would understand it. I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what she said in Twi. And she's right. This is her story. It does exist. Does it exist with all Ghanaians? Probably not. But there are some people who, even from a child, their parents would even say it. Friends of their parents would say, "Oh, your baby's so dark and ugly." It happens. It continues to happen. It happens to this day. And this is why a lot of women have this mentality in their mind and this childhood trauma, and they are going and turning around and they're bleaching their skin so that they can be light and feel accepted. And this sister has every right to her truth. It's her truth. So kudos to you, sister, for speaking your truth and defending yourself. This is
okay. Any comments on that? Anybody know what colorism is?
Yes, I agree with what the lady said, Shalom, about that being her truth. I think that the spell, if you will, has been cast over this whole world with regards to how they want to portray us and how they teach us or has taught us to look upon each other and keep us at each other's throat through one of these ways is by saying and teaching us about something being wrong with the color of our skin. I think I'm fascinated actually with this whole thing of this new girl that had came from South Africa. She sung this song. I forgot what her name is. She sings that song Water, and how she comes here out of the blue, as a so-called rising star, saying that she's colored, but yet she surrounds herself with all Native African dancers. She caters to the Black audience, although, other audiences like her, but she utilizes it. It's fascinating to me how they utilize the traditions, the culture, the slang, the style, the swagger of Black people, particularly dark skinned people, or people that are dark. And when I say dark, I mean like dark brown too, not just dark black or black. But then they only want to be in proximity to us to be accepted or considered to be to have some sort of uh, credibility. But yet, when it comes down to who you are, or an identification of who you are, then somehow being Black is less than. So
Right,
I just think
right.
that's
Yeah, the powers that be behind that, because I used to watch these Hollywood movies, like when the movie Us came out, even the one with Fred Hampton in it, the guy. I was like, they black folks, but they're not acting. They don't move. They don't have the swagger that African Americans have. And then come to find out, they're not African. I mean, they're not African Americans. They're
right.
Africans. And
Yeah.
the powers that be behind that, they causing that rift. It's one of those Willie Lynch things. They pitting us against each other, and then it's because of like Samuel Jackson and Denzel Washington then reached the highest levels of acting, and they have to be paid a certain amount of money. So by the cyborg that they bring in these uh not so famous people from Great Britain and from Africa and paying them, cutting the rolls.
Right.
I think what's her name was talking about that. What her name? She's in a Color Purple.
Taraji.
Yeah, exactly. She was bringing it up how less they being paid for the skills that they have, and being paid not be compared to white actors, and especially white women. They get a lot more pay than they do.
I think it's just an old uh, manipulative tool that they've always used. It doesn't matter what
Right,
country they come from. To they made us light skinned, and and even us who are dark brown or brown, and not just dark skin or what they call Black. I mean, we all have a mixture of something in us, and they've always created this narrative, whether it's directly or subtle. They do that, but then when we do it, they want to talk about it, but when they do it, they don't. I mean, we all remember Alicia Keys versus India Arie. Both of them came out at the same time. They
right,
made India Arie less than. She was dark skinned,
right,
had natural hair. But if you look at Alicia Keys and this new girl that just came out to sing that song Water, they look exactly alike. And they pushed them to the front of the line. Again, she's catering to Black audiences. She has all Black dancers. She's doing traditional African dances. But yet, when
right,
they ask her what her nationality is or what her ethnic group is, she says, I'm colored.
right,
And as if to deny that you're Black, but yet you embrace and wrap yourself up in the African culture. Why not just
right,
say, I'm Black or I'm African? Let everybody else define what that is instead of trying to deny that, but yet catering to us with that. That's what get on my nerve.
right. Like
Shalom.
they okay, go ahead.
Shalom. In some parts of Africa, they feel that that word is not a derogative, um, break them down. They feel that the word colored is saying that they're better than others. They have no problem of saying that word colored, in which we here over in America, colored from the um, Caucasians made it seem like we were, it downgraded us. But over there, in certain parts, colored means something to them. And also, they're bleaching their skin in certain parts of Africa. They got so many products out, and they're saying like 77% of Nigeria, they have them bleaching their skin. Everyone wants to bleach their skin, not everyone, but as they're giving this product out to these, the Africans, certain parts of Africa are bleaching their skin. So they're making a big revenue over this skin bleaching product in certain parts of Africa.
But I guarantee you, nobody black owns those companies that sell those
Yeah,
products.
exactly. Right.
And so
Correct.
the issue to me is it's still a tool to be divisive. Although color means something different in Africa than what it means here to us, at the end of the day, it's still a tool to separate the diversity of black people, as if to say you're not part of them. It's in America, in order to be considered mixed or black or what is it, Afro Latino, all of that, you water down the voting block of black people, because in our country, representation is set up by how they characterize you. So all of us may be black, but if you decide to call yourself Afro Latino, you will not be counted as black. Therefore, when the census and stuff come down and they start dividing or deciding who gets how many, what area gets how many representation and stuff like that, that's when all that stuff it becomes important. And that's why it's important for them to keep us divided in each other's throat, fighting for a little bit of something, because it benefits them. But remember, in slavery, anybody who had a drop, it benefited them because they had more slaves. But now that it benefits us, then all of a sudden, then it's important that you count all of you and not just a drop.
Right. Also about NRE, she had substance. She had
Yeah,
knowledge. She was
yeah.
she had culture. Just like what they did to the lady that played in Fresh Prince. They got rid of her.
Vivian, yeah.
Right. So it's got a lot to do with that too. The awakened ones, they push them to the sides, integrate them. They don't want that to catch on. Yeah. That's something.
Oh yeah,
Yes, sir, it is. It's something.
but I do like that we are recognizing these old tools that have been used against us. I see
Right.
a lot of beautiful women of various shades of black, recognizing that and saying that. I think what we got to get away from is, oh, you're pretty because you're dark skinned, or you're a pretty girl even though you're a big girl. We were always healthy. We were all, we were dark skinned, and if we were not attractive, there would be no light skin. So that's all I
Right.
got to say.
Okay. Yeah. Then
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
just
yeah.
want to add one thing.
Say you pretty cause you
Even the,
unique.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I apologize. Continue.
Go ahead.
I was saying even the Caucasian wants to darken their skin with all this tanning, and now they don't even have to tan anymore. It's a spray that they can spray on them to get a certain melanin color.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, we'll go into the book of Esther. Uh, what I'm doing is somebody want to read, we'll read some chapters. I want y'all to read the whole thing because it's not that long. Let me get it. Yeah, Esther. So I think let me see how many chapters it is. Okay, got some chapters. 9 chapters. Okay, anybody want to read chapter 1? And we just go through it like that and see how far we can get. Anybody volunteer to read chapter 1?
I'll read chapter 2. Let me go get my book.
Okay, I'll start reading 1 then. Okay, it says, now it came to pass in the days of Ars. This is the Ars which reigned from India to Ethiopia over 170, 107 and 20 provinces. So this is what I was talking about yesterday. They ruled over all these provinces at one time was nations. So that's why they call the King of Kings, because they deposed all these countries. King was deposed and they made them governors. And now Artaxerxes, Nebuchadnezzar, whoever it is, Ezra, I mean not Ezra, but Cyrus, he the King of Kings because he didn't depose all these other kings and put them, relegated them down to governors. He let them stay in place, you know, to keep stability, but they no longer had authority that they had before when they was a king. And so, like I was saying, Assyria is one of those nations that he subdued, and that's what the 10 tribes is. And then you got in Babylon, you got the southern kingdom. So they all there. So you can't go by what they tell this trick that Esau using with this lost tribe thing. They all under Nebuchadnezzar's authority, and they was all under Ezra authority. I mean, keep saying Ezra, Cyrus authority. Okay, verse 2 says that in those days, when the king Ars sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in the Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, and the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes and the provinces be before him. And when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when those days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan palace, both great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened unto cords of fine linen, and purple and silver rings, and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon the pavement of red and blue and white and black and marble. And they gave them drink in the vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and the royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinkings were according to the law. None did compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also Vesta, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to the king Ahasuerus. It says on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mahim, I'm gonna butcher his name, Bethel, Haba, Bija, Aja, Abijah, Zethar, and Carcass, even the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus. So notice they got it, the same thing, because Nebuchadnezzar saw the Most High, and he saw those 7 angels. So Nebuchadnezzar set up the same thing. He had 7 men in front of him, and Medes and Persians did the same thing. You got 7 chamberlains. You think that's a coincidence? Him, and he got 7 chamberlains. Okay, to bring Vesta, the queen, before the king with a crown royal, to show the people of the province her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vesta refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgments. And the next unto him was Carcinus, said Admarth, Tarshish, Mari, Messina, and Mecham, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vesta according to the law? Because she have not performed the commandments of the king of Ahasuerus by the chamberlain, and make him answer before the king and the princes. Vesta, the queen, has not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vesta, the queen, to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princesses which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there also arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Media, Persians and Media, that it be not altered, that Vesta come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husband honor, both of great and small. And the same pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Mekim. Okay, let's see. Okay, for he sent letters into all the king's province, in every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it shall be published according to the language of every people. Okay, so that was chapter 1. Anybody got any comments on that? Chapter 1. Okay, we'll read chapter 2.
A new queen is sought. After these things which the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vesta, and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shishaman the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hergud, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification he be given them. And let the maidens which pleases the king be queen instead of Vesta. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan, the palace where there was a certain Jew, whose name was Morkadiah, the
Mordecai.
son of Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shishima, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away from Jeniah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadashah, that is
Hadassah.
Esther. Say it again.
Hadassah.
Adasha, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Macadiah, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Hega, that Esther was brought also into the king's house, to the custody of Hega, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, which such things as belonged to her, and even 7 maidens which were meant to be given to her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best palace of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred for Mokadia. I'm sorry, I can't say these names.
Mordecai. Mordecai.
Mordecai had changed her, and that she should not shew it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Esther is chosen queen. Now, when every maid's turn was come to go into the king's Ascaris, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of women, for so were the days of their purification accomplished to oh, I can't see that. To with 6 months with oil of myrrh, 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purification of the women. Then thus come every maiden to the king, whosoever she desired was given to her to go with her out of the house of the women into the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morning she returned into the second house of the women to the custody of Shashka Gaza, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she was called by name. Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, and the uncle of Morkadia, Makadiah, who had taken her from his daughters, for his daughter, who was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing, but what Hagar, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto the king Asherus into his royal house in the 10th month, which is the month Terebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all of the virgins, so that he sent the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vesta. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Morkadia, Morkadia sat in the king's gate. Esther has not yet shown her kindred nor her people, as Morkadia had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Morkadia, like as when she was brought unto him. Morkadia saves the king's life. In these days, while Morkadia sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigaran and Tersha, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hands on the king Asherus. And the thing was known to Morkadiah, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when the inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. That's chapter 2.
Okay. You get anything out of that?
So I don't, they don't always give you all the details of the order of what happened, but what I saw was, the queen got beside herself and didn't do as the king commanded her. She was full of herself and thought that she had such favor, she can do what she want to do. And then so they put her on the back burner. They bring in these other women This Israelite woman gets brought in. She's brought before the king. She's shown favor. Everybody loves her. And then there's this conspiracy against the king, but it doesn't really explain what was all that about. It's just, you start reading in that chapter that these two people had something against the king, and so they were able to gain favor among everybody else because it saved the king's life when they were fighting against him. But what was that plot about?
Yeah, so if you go back to what I was talking about earlier, verse 10, chapter 1. You see verse 10 of chapter 1 of Esther. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Chapter 1, verse 10 of Esther.
I gotta find my place of my book drop. Okay, I'll go back and look at that on my own time. I'm sorry, I don't want to hold up everybody else.
But everybody else, can y'all see chapter verse 10?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's the seven chambers. I told you, Yahweh, and he got seven angels. They duplicating that. So the number one, the first one in charge, it says the king was merry with wine, and he commanded Markim. Markim is the Lord of hosts. So those two men that's trying to kill the king, this man right here, Markim, got him trying to do it because he want to be the king.
Oh, okay.
So he didn't conspire. So it's gonna come out later. That's how you're gonna see later that Haman became, when Markim was found out that he was behind it, they brought Haman up. Haman became one of the seven chamberlains. As a matter of fact, he took the place of this man that tried to plot against him. That's what that was all about. They tried to pardon him.
But that's all still blasphemy, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But they were found out. Mordecai overheard it and found out, and Mordecai informed Esther, and Esther informed the king.
Right. Okay, I got it now.
Right. Somebody want to read chapter 3?
Shalom, I will.
Okay.
Esther chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed down, nor did him reference. 3. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. Verse 6, and he taught scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year, of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman, from day to day and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the province of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. 9. And if it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasuries. 10. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters were sent by post into all the king province, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for prey. 14. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king of Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed. That was Esther chapter 3.
Okay, so based off what I was just talking about in chapter 2, we see in verse 1 of chapter 3, after these things did the king, they are promote Haman. So he promoted Haman because of the other guy I showed you. They found out that he was the one behind trying to poison him. So then he promoted Haman. So the thing about it is, it says Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. So when you go back to 2 Samuel, you're going to see what's going on, the reason why I hate the Israelites so much. You go back to 2 Samuel, let me get the 1 Samuel. And okay, let me get it right here. It says, so he sent Saul to destroy the Amalekites. So these Amalekites, they Edomites. It's one of the sons of Esau. So the reason why the Lord sent Saul to go destroy all of them was because of when they came out of Egypt, passed through the land, the Amalekites came out against them and fought against them. So the Lord of hosts remembered that when Israel got in their land and got settled and got a king and all that, he sent Saul back to these Amalekites to kill them. But the point is, if you go to no, I'm in the wrong place. Let me go back some more. So go to okay. So anyway, his name was the king of the Amalekites. His name was Agag. That's why this boy right here, Haman, is an Agag. He's from that king, Agag. King name was Agag. So it was left out of the story. If you go to the Apocrypha, and he's got a book in the Apocrypha called The Editions of Esther. It tells you what happened. So when he told Saul to go to the Amalekites and kill the king, kill everybody in them, young and old, and kill all the animals. And so, but Saul kept the best of the animals, and he kept the king. That's what's told to us in the King James. But when you go to this is Esther, not only did he keep the king, he kept his wife with him, and the lady was pregnant. So when Samuel came to the tent to see if Saul had carried out what the Lord had told him to do, he saw Agag sitting there. So Samuel pulled out his sword and killed him, chopped him up and killed him. But his wife had already left in the middle of the night, escaped, pregnant. And the boy, that's the boy right here, Haman. Haman is the boy that was in her stomach. And this is why he hates it. This is why he hates the Israelites so much.
Shalom.
Right.
That was in 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 8. And he took Agag, the king of the Ammonites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. And then again what you were saying is 8 through 15.
Right. So Saul marveled at him because they giants. So Saul was marveled at him because of his height and his stature. So he kept him alive. But Creator told him, Lord Host had told Samuel to tell him to kill everything. But he kept the king, and not only the king, his wife. And by the time Samuel get there, the woman escaped and got a caravan, just like Joseph. She got a caravan and ended up in Media Persia.
So he disobeyed God then.
Yeah, he disobeyed him because the Lord of hosts told Samuel to go tell him to kill all the Amalekites because of what they had done to the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. But Saul, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I was, when you made reference to the I forgot what you call it at the bottom. I saw that Saul was killed by one of their descendants.
Yeah. Saul and his son was killed by the same people.
Yeah, that's probably his punishment for disobeying. That the very people he saved was their descendants killed him.
Right, exactly. And that's
Can
normally
I ask
how.
Can I ask a
Go ahead.
question that's kind of off the topic a little bit?
What is
So
it?
one of my, why is it? Are these names and stuff? Because to me, I've always been taught that words matter, names matter. You know, you don't call me Michelle, you call me Tasha because I'm not Michelle. So are these names the real name of the people? Because they sound more Arabic than they are Israelites.
Okay,
And this, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, we dealing with Medes and Persians also. And we dealing with this, they in amongst the Medes and Persians. So that's Greek. AR is Greek.
Mm-hmm.
But Mordecai is like.
It always made me wonder, are the names and stuff real? Because the way that the book is written, it's like a mixture of Old English way of speaking than the original text. Because like the names Paul, John, and all that in the New Testament, they definitely not from that area. I mean, those are all English names. So it always made me wonder by the Old Testament too. So because I've always struggled with the names and the pronunciation because it's not how we were taught English or speaking with the way that their vowels and stuff like that go. So I just always wondered about that.
Right. You got to, when you go back and look at the history of the Bible itself, is like I was saying, when they was in Egypt, they didn't want to read the Bible in Hebrew no more because they was Greeks. So they wrote. That's how you get the Septuagint. They wrote it in Greek. That's like AR's name. That's not his name, and that's not his name. That's the Greek version of his name. And then another thing is, these people dealing with, when you understand how they came into existence, these fallen angels came down, slept with women, and then they got giants. So they worshiping their father. So like Nebuchadnezzar, that last part of his name is the name of their God. That's why his name Nebuchadnezzar. That Zar, his name is God. Then he got his Lord of hosts, Nebuzaradan. They got Zar in their name. So they changed Daniel El, that's a Hebrew name. They changed his name from Daniel El to Belteshazzar. And they changed Zerubbabel's name to I can't think of the name they called him. Sheshbazzar. So those are not Greek names. They changing their names, just like with us. When we got over here, they changed our names. When we on the boat, we got on the boat with Israelite names, but the time we got here into the plantation, they changed our names. And they knew that because the people would have recognized that who we were if we'd kept our regular names.
Is that why Esther's name was changed?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're changing the name to the names of they people.
So what is her original name? Do you know?
You just said it, Hadassah.
Yes.
You was reading Hadassah.
If I'm honest, it's hard for me to follow.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because it distracts from the story that I'm trying to understand when I can't pronounce their names.
Right. Yeah, it do. If you got a King James Study Bible, what helps a lot is to read the beginning of it. You know, the historical setting and let me see how they say that. It's the historical setting. They got the authorship, who wrote the book. That's good to read that.
Okay.
I know it helped me out.
Yeah, I'll go back.
Right. So where we at, chapter 4?
Yes, sir.
Somebody want to read that? Yeah, we'll read one more chapter. Okay, I'll read it.
Sister Nidra.
Yeah, I'm right here. Okay, chapter 4. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Hadach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hadach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given to Shushan to destroy them, to show it to Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go unto the king and make supplication unto him, and to make requests before him for her people. And Hadach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hadach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whatsoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, Then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer: Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Chapter 4.
Okay, so notice in chapter right at the bottom, verse 16, it says, go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan. See that? That's Judah, Benjamin, Levi, southern kingdom. But the other ones is in the Syrian province, like I was saying. So she said, gather all the ones that's there at the province in, Shushan. See that? So anyway, another thing about that chapter 4 was I was telling you what Daniel did when Daniel put on sackcloth and ashes. And this was so important to understand that JC is a fraud, because it says right here, when Mordecai perceived, same thing with Daniel, he looked at the books and saw what Jeremiah had prophesied, then he acted. So it says, when Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes, right? Put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city. Now check out what he did. And he cried with a loud voice. See that? And a bitter cry. And the Lord of hosts heard that. Like Gabriel heard it. They heard it. So that's why it's important to know who the God is. You crying out, we've been crying out for a loud voice for JC for what? 400 and some years. But notice he did. They cried out with a loud voice too. And it came to pass before the king's gate. It came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every providence, look at this, in every providence, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Israelites, and fasting, just like Daniel did, and weeping and wailing, and many laid in sackcloth and ashes. That's how you get the Most High attention, Lord holds attention. And like I said before, we doing the same thing now, but we dealing with a fictitious God. That's why we ain't getting no response. That's why he hid his name, and his face from us and who he was.
And how to call upon him.
Right, exactly. So what I want to, before I close, I want to I'm in the Apocrypha. You ain't got to go there, but I'm in the edition of Esther. I want to read this little first part, like quick. Okay. Okay, here we go. It says in the second year of the reign of Artaxerxes. This is what I was saying. If you get a chance, if you got an apocryphal book, this is name right here. The same guy, Aorus. They got it in Greek over there in the King James. This is name right here in Mede and Persia. It says, on the first day of Nishan, Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shema, son of Kaddish of the tribe of Benjamin, had a dream. So this part is not in the King James. He was an Israelite, and he lived in the city of Shushan, an important man in attendance at a royal court. He was one of the captives. That it says you go in on it. One of the captives that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had brought from Jerusalem with Jehoiakim, king of Judah. And this was a dream. Behold, noise and tumult, thunder and earthquake, uproar on the earth, and here came two great dragons, both ready to wrestle, and they uttered a great roar. And their roar, every nation made ready for war to fight against the nation of the upright. And behold, a day of darkness and gloom and affliction and anguish, distress and great tumult upon the earth. And the whole upright nation was troubled, fearing their own hurt, and they prepared to perish. And they cried out to God. And at their cry, there arose a thought from a tiny spring, a great river with abundant water. Light came, and the sun rose, and the humble were exalted and consumed the glorious. And when Mordecai had this dream and had seen what God resolved to do, awoke, and he kept it in his mind, and all the day sought by all means to understand it. So this is what happened. So what we reading in the King James is coming to pass, but they don't tell you the part where Mordecai had a dream. And all we reading is the fulfillment of the dream. Okay. So with that being said, anybody have any comments or questions before we go?
I just have one quick comment. As we read the first 4 chapters, right? I just noticed that Lord or God is not mentioned.
Right.
That just kind of caught my attention, that his name is not mentioned.
Right. It's not mentioned because those are prime examples. But I say people don't understand how much they done butchered the Bible. They only put in there what they wanted. The example is right here. They don't tell you, they couldn't put the dream. Mordecai had the dream. So that's the book of Mordecai. So they want you to think it's Esther because of what they did in the New Testament. They brought up Mary and raised all these women up at the tomb and all that. And so now they got to go back because you're gonna say, well, you don't see none of that. You don't see women doing all this in the Old Testament. So they had to come back. That's why they plug in there Esther. Ain't no book of Esther. It's Mordecai. It's the book of Mordecai. And that's why you see in that. That's why when like it said, or in the New Testament, you don't see nowhere where it said, "Thus said the Lord." That's how you know it's a dead calendar line.
Right.
Same way with that. And then, like I said with Job, we got Job talking to the Lord. You don't see none of the Israelites, even Melchizedek, and they ain't talking to the Lord like Job talking to him. Those are signs.
Wow.
Right. Yep. So anybody else have anything before we go?
Yes, shalom. So by you saying the praising of the Lord and calling out, you keep your head up looking towards the sky, or is it bowing down and facing the ground?
Worship. Worship is bowing down to the ground with your head down to the ground, and praising is with your hands up in the air.
Okay.
Right. So the example is, I showed what the Lord of Hosts doing. Michael, he throwing his hands up in the air to Yahweh. We saw that all, and even with a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but if you look at a lot of the images during the transatlantic slave trade, they got the man with chains on his hands, but his hands stretched up to heaven. But the heavens been closed off to them. They're throwing their hands up for help, but prophecy already taken place. He didn't close them off from heaven. He said the sky above is like iron, and the earth beneath them is like brass. They've been cut off from heaven, but they throwing their hands up, but ain't no help coming. Tribulation came. It's overtook. A lot of people don't pay attention to that. When you start looking, you'll see. They always got this picture of this black man on his knees with both his hands stretched up to heaven.
Okay. Now this day and age, or is still praising, holding our hands up, is it still the iron above and brass below?
No, I don't think so. I think that's because we examples. We awakened. Deuteronomy, Isaiah 44, 1-5. He said he's in the last days he's gonna help us. And then not only that, he says, seek him out in the last days and find me in the latter days. Because he had hid himself from us. Now he's pouring his spirit on us, and we find out who he is. We see that JC ain't got nothing to do with us. So that's been lifted.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so with that being said, let me say shalom, and I'll see everybody tomorrow for our clubhouse at 8 o'clock. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.